Hey, yeah, welcome to week 3. I'm going to go through the progress as normal. So this week I've focused on generating loot from the server and then also being able to interact with a lootable object and it then using that loot and rolling to be able to give you a chance to get a varied amount of loot based on some settings and also rarity as well. So the classic common, uncommon, epic, rare, and legendary. So with that said, the first thing I did was think about how I'm going to do loot generation. And to do that, I thought the best approach would be to look at creating a deterministic loot generation system. And by that, quite simply means that if I pass in a seed value, so what is eventually going to happen is the game is going to start up and the client's going to connect to a server. That server is going to start up and that server is going to pass in a seed ID. It could be a GUID or something or a string or something. And then this will basically use that to have as a seed value, which then means all the loot that ever gets generated uses that value, meaning it's deterministic, and that anytime I want to like replicate the same game, if you like, I just need that seed ID. So I think it's super useful and super important. Else it's just going to be a bit of the wild, wild west to be able to sort of tweak gameplay mechanics for loot when sort of raids occur within the game. So once that's done, the next part was to sort of look, how the heck do you visualize that? So needing a inventory UI, some items to interact with, a way to interact with them. So yeah, let me just go through the first part, which is the looting. So now you can see I've got well, first in the world, I've got these lockers, which was a very cool, there's a free asset on Fab. Always want to make sure I give credit for these lockers. The only thing I did was basically go into the asset itself, go into the blueprints, and then create my own blueprint from it. And in that, they put all the pivot points in the right place for the door and things like that. So what I did was create a quick animation with a bit of overlap there. And, you know, I allowed you to have a custom event that you can call. It triggers the animation and then basically interpolates that rotation. That's 2 variables. Right now, I just open it to -5 degrees. And yeah, it then sets it. So you get a nice little animation. So these are the lockers, and they are this new type that has now been created called lootable base, which is created in C++. So if we go to the raid folder, we've got blueprint locker, which is what these lockers are. And we have a data asset, which is actually a loot table class that I created that has these settings. So spawn chance is the chance of items spawning. The rolls is min and max. So in the case of a locker, I've set it to 3 and 3. So meaning a locker always has 3 shelves is what it could represent. And then entries is the loot within that item, that lootable item. This will eventually change into maybe just a global table, and it'll just need the IDs that you can just select from. But for now, there's 2 items, a pencil and a keyring. The keyring is rare and the pencil is uncommon. And then the weight in this case is not the weight in kilograms, but the weight is the weight within its rarity tier. And by that, I've got all the different ones that you would expect: common, uncommon, rare, epic, and legendary. You can also customize the chance of each of those tiers. So super flexible in that regard. And obviously you've got min and max quantity for those items. And then also you can sort of set whether it's unique within that container or not, which is kind of handy. Probably most of the time that'll probably be beyond, but I just tried to make it as flexible as possible. So right now we're saying a locker has 3 shelves and, you know, can spawn a min and max quantity of 4 for a pencil and 1 and 1 for a keyring. And that's basically the sort of looting system set up. So when the server starts on local, there's just a single seed. So I'm always going to get the same behavior. So I can just quickly show that. So if I start the editor as a client and we go to one of the lockers, let's take the 3rd locker down. you can see now that I have a pencil and a keyring. I've added that little animation there that gets triggered. These have a little animation coming in as well. I tried to do a thin vertical slice of all these things to make sure that I can hook into the events to actually, when I get to the art part, like make it feel and look nice. So pencil and keyring came out of these 2 out of 3 slots. You can drag them. I need to update the UI for this stuff. Just to say that, you know, I created this quick design for the UI with the different tiers in Figma. So like each one of these is set up as a nice little component in its own right as well. So you can kind of change the different ones within Figma, and we can start doing some design for that. And then from there, you can also drag them. But what I will say is if I now close and we restart the server, because it's got the same seed, if I go to that third locker, I should get exactly the same loot rolls. So as you can see, I've now got uncommon and rare, which is pretty cool. And that down in the bottom right is the seed number that we're using for this this raid. So yeah, moving on. We've now got this basic UI, which we've just seen here. We've got the animated locker, which hooks into the events. And then we've also got these draggable items. Still need to get the visual representation. I just did it temporary because I was just trying to get this working. And I've only really started to just get it all working today. So you can now drag your keyring into loadout, and then that moves away from there. And then pencil, I can move that over. And then obviously if I hit E and then E again, you can see that that's not got any loot, and this does. Other things that I had to consider were for multiplayer is that I've made it so that only one player, if you're interacting like this, other players then can't interact with it. So it gives you time to sort of do your looting, which is pretty cool. As you can see on the right, my loadout has 4 slots here. What I've done there is I've basically created a new attribute with a new attribute set. So there's a new inventory attribute set, which is going to hold your backpack slots and other bits. And as you can see, it's set to 4, but you could imagine I could have a curve table based on your player's level or item, depending on what backpack you've picked up. So let's just say you picked up an awesome backpack. It's now got 10 slots. If I compile and save that, and we go back into the game, we should see that the UI updates and reflects that as well. So if I go into here, you can now see my backpack has these slots. As I say, we're going to have like, this will be the backpack slot, I think, and then we'll have like primary, secondary weapons and a sort of secondary item. I've got a few ideas on what that could be, that augmentation could be, based on the fact it's an extraction shooter. And then obviously your backpack, which will be however many slots your backpack can handle. Yeah, so if I just do that and that, I've got stacking to do. I haven't done that yet. That's another thing that needs to be done. But it does show you that I can now at least start to actually loot. As you can see, like, because this is one up, I've got a little bug here as well. If I go back into it, it refreshes it, it's okay. But there's a couple of bugs on this bit because I only just sort of started to get this kind of interaction going back and forth via the server. So yeah, but a little bit of audio in there as well. And that's pretty much this week. So next week, I'll be honest, I'm going to probably have to spend even more time on this inventory UI and system. I'd like to get stacking done, and I'd like to be able to like drag them back because you can't do that. And I'd like you to be able to drop items as well. And at that point, I think it's enough. I am not going to implement things like split stack yet. This is more than enough. But it's going to be pretty cool because what I'm trying to do is get that vertical slice of, you start the game, you can join a dedicated server. We've still got all the game lift stuff to do, but join a server, do a raid. If you can go in there, go to some places in the level, pick up some items, and then extract. Like, that would be an awesome place to be, because that is sort of the base loop, at least, of a raid, without all of the extra stuff that I've got on my mind. For gameplay mechanics and obviously attributes for like weight and puzzles and all kinds of stuff when we actually start getting to building out the maps. But just thought I'd give an update, and that's week 3. Thanks for watching.